Hello, this is Graham, and this is a quick introduction to the various types of photo that most people take. It was prepared for an introductory level course, but I hope that it might provoke a few thoughts for any photographer. Photographs tend to be classified according to their subject, and we call these categories genres. Each genre has a set of common rules or approaches that most photographers follow. You don't have to do so, of course, but it helps to know the usual way of tackling them before you break the rules, so that you can do so deliberately and know why. While there are many different genres of photography, most come down to one of these six: portrait, documentary, street, sports, still life, and travel. I'm going to try and highlight some of their individual qualities, but I don't expect you to remember the details. At this stage, just give some thought to the types of picture that you like taking. Almost every picture that we make with people as a subject falls into the portraiture category. Portraits can be informal or formal, posed or candid, of people we know and complete strangers. Generally, people look better when they're relaxed, so talking to them is likely to produce a better result than posing them stiffly or catching them unawares. Portraits can be headshots, particularly popular for social media profile pictures, head and shoulders, which are popular for more formal portraits, and full length. Subjects can be standing, sitting, doing something, or holding something. When we take their picture in the place where they live or work, we describe it as an environmental portrait. Photographers often prefer slightly longer focal length lenses for portraits. A fixed length 80mm lens is very common, rather than the 50mm that comes as a kit lens with many cameras. This has three advantages that I know of. Firstly, it means that you can get their face to take up more of the image without being really close up to them, which means that they're less intimidated and so more relaxed. Secondly, longer lenses produce flatter images, so there's less distortion of the face. And finally, a fixed lens usually has a larger aperture or hole through which the picture is taken. Because of the physics of lenses, this means that it has a narrower depth of field. In other words, if you focus on one of their eyes, the background can be out of focus, so it doesn't distract from the subject. And that highlights one important way of dramatically improving most casual portrait shots. Focus on the eye that is nearest to you, and if you really can't do that, then focus on their nose. Years ago, when people used film cameras, they would take rolls of film to the local booths or send them away for printing. They would then create a photo album of their holiday. Maybe a dozen pictures, some setting the scene, a couple of the kids building sandcastles, one of Grandad asleep in his deck chair, maybe a long-distance shot of a famous castle that they'd visited, and of course one of the children in the stocks as if they'd been naughty. These were assembled in the album, sometimes with little captions, and they told a story. Telling a story is a key aspect of documentary photography. All kinds of pictures, scene-setting shots, close-up details, some showing people doing things, they are held together by a common story. Storytelling with photographs is a fantastic skill to develop. A story makes someone's boring snaps into a much more interesting document. Most situations where we're tempted to take lots of snaps can be far better recorded as a documentary by thinking of the story that we would like to tell beforehand. Documentaries that stand out have a well thought through story and a consistency across the images. The palette of colours, their saturation, the type of lens and so on will usually be the same. Street photography has become very popular recently. It can take quite a bit of nerve to take pictures close enough to strangers for the viewer to see the detail of what they're doing. And doing something is quite important. Random pictures of everyday strangers doing nothing in particular aren't of interest to anyone, but a close-up of someone doing something out of the ordinary can be far more intriguing. And intrigue is key. A good street photograph prompts the viewer to try to complete the story. It makes them ask what was going on here. If street photography calls for people to be doing something, the same is usually true of sports photography. Sports photographs can be taken in all kinds of places, not just at organised events and mainstream sports. What's important is for the subject, usually the sports person, to take up enough of the image for the viewer to know what they're doing. For some sports you can simply get close up, but for many you need a long focal length lens. If the action is moving, as in a football match, you need to find a way of getting the player or players sharply in focus. A part of this is about having a suitable lens and using the settings on the camera to take the picture very quickly. Sports photographers also anticipate where the action is going to happen. They focus their camera on that place and then just wait for the person to be there. There are other techniques which we'll cover during the course, such as panning our camera to follow the player, which keeps them sharp while the background blurs. The beauty of still life is that it is much more in the control of the photographer. We decide what we'll photograph, how we'll light it, what angles and aspects of it we want to record. Still life includes pictures of flowers in vases, step-by-step instructions for DIY projects, fine art arrangements of a number of items, and all sorts of other arrangements of static objects. Key to still life is the selection and arrangement of the objects and the lighting of them to achieve a particular effect. When we stumble across something that looks very attractive, it's tempting to snap away. But the lesson from still life photography is to think of rearranging some of the parts and to move all around it to find the best angle. Still life can be done almost anywhere, so it's particularly popular with photographers who prefer not to have to go far afield. I guess that travel photography is the most common genre. When we go somewhere, we want to record what we've seen to boost our memories. While travel is a form of documentary, it often happens more spontaneously. The secret to travel photography is to try to take sufficient shots at the time to be able to create multiple stories afterwards. This is different to documentary, where you often have a plan beforehand. Lots of us go to places, see something, and then tell ourselves that we'll go back later and get the image. And of course we don't. A travel photographer is on the lookout all the time. They take pictures frequently, and while they try to get the best that they can, they accept that there are times when the best shot is the one that they have in their camera, even if it isn't perfect. When they get home, they then create many stories or collections of the images. Some will have an immediate purpose, such as showing to friends, but others will be filed away, so that should they fit into a different story later, they can be found. They may find over time that they've built up a collection of images, for example, of garden gates, foreign graveyards, or places where fresh fruit and veg are sold. You name it, there could be a travel-related story associated with it. So that's a quick summary of 6 of the most common genres of photography: portraiture, documentary, street, sports, still life, and travel. Over time, you'll hopefully refine your ideas of the kinds of image that you most like to take, develop your own story, and present it to the rest of the world. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this useful. Your feedback's always welcome, as are ideas for future courses, classes, or videos. Goodbye.